Champions, we're back to the custom Hiwatt 50, the SA112. Done the recap, we've got the new tube amp doctor caps in there. I managed to get all the right values, so it's the exact same configuration as before, so I was able to reuse the wiring everywhere, which is good. The only problem is that one's a bit taller, so the wire's still reached, but yeah, it just looks a bit out of line, but you know. Some of these, the multi-section caps that had unequal sections, like that's a 16 and a 32, they were the opposite sides to the old cap, so I had to just rework those wires to go to their new positions. There was enough spare length there to make it look like it was factory still. Ooh, lunch is ready. Got the new V-Shay there for the bias cap, and the only electrolytic bypass cap there, which is shared between the two triodes on V1. Now, as I pulled the EL34s out to clean the sockets, one of these sockets came with it. I think it might have been that one. It sort of came out of its little claws. Now you can see down in there the pressed metal just has little teeth that hang onto the Bakelite. Over time and vibration they come loose, and the Bakelite itself is then kind of unsecured. So I don't really want to change those sockets because there's nothing else wrong with them. So what we're going to do is put some spring retainers on there that will stop that valve base from moving once the valve's installed. So it's not fully trying to come out, it's just going a bit skewy. That one's a bit tighter. So I've got these units here which can go onto the existing screws, and some silicone flat washers so they don't rattle around on the glass, and just, I don't like the metal to glass contact. You can eventually score the glass and create a weak point. Oh yeah, look at that. So that'll give us a bit of peace of mind that those valves won't fall out either. There's still a fair bit of tension on those contacts, so that's promising. And let's have a quick look at the valves. So these are USA made 6CA7s, otherwise known as EL34s, Sylvania brand. And it's interesting to see the anode here with their 5 brutal spot welds on either side, and the posts being at the full extent, about as far out as they can be, for sturdiness on the anodes there on the wing. And then compare that with a new one. This is an EL34-2 from JJ's. They've gone to like a pressed kind of fixing. So that's pushed through from one side and then folded over on the back, instead of welding like this, like a spot welder, big ka-chunk spot welder. This was one I rejected because brand new and it had a broken mica washer, so that's JJ's these days. And I wasn't trusting that, so it went in the fuck it bucket. But yeah, and it's also interesting to note that the posts aren't as far out on this one. In fact, I think it's just a little bit of riveted over metal there. You can see that little grey bit, that little grey tabs, as opposed to a big chunky post. Anyway, that one goes back in the bin, and we'll put these ones back in because they're the ones you heard last time and they weren't sounding too bad. We'll clean the pins up, clean the sockets up, and reinstall them. The only reservations I've got about these ones is there's some like white powder in there. If it's from the mica washer and it seems to be concentrated around there, that's not the end of the world. It is a like really loud combo amp, and the speaker's just behind these things. So I'm hoping it's the mica and not the actual plating on the cathode, the coating on the cathode, because that could mean that these valves aren't too long for this world. You can hear they're a bit rattly, like a clunky rattly, not like a zingy rattly. This is technical terminology at its best, mind you. And both are the same. I can actually feel the mechanism like hitting the glass as you lightly tap it. So those mica washers, the little fingers that press against the glass, have compressed over time, and now there's a bit of movement in there, so there might be a little bit microphonic as well. There you go, that looks a little bit more business-like, doesn't it? And that should solve the problem with that socket just being a bit loose now. It's got a bit of preload on it. Those springs are pretty tight, but we've got that silicone washer there, so they're not pushing directly against the glass. And I'm not sure if the amp came with all 4 preamp shields, but there was one missing, so I put a new belt on there just to protect the thing and just keep it tension. So let's fire this thing up and have a listen now that we've done all this work. Unfortunately, cabs that are this dirty require an actual scrub with some detergent to get the bristles right in there in the Tolex texture, but without getting moisture everywhere. Just trying to keep it one panel at a time, one side at a time, and just dry it off as you go. Shiny. You get right into the cracks and crevices. This is actually it's a denture brush. Supplied by you know who. Get right into the nooks and crannies and get rid of all that cockroach poop smell. Well, this sucks a bit. There's cleats that were glued in place for some reason, just seems to be just to hide the screw holes for the baffle. I took the speaker out. I wanted to see if I could retension this cloth because it's really loose, and that's what you're presented with. It's glued in place covering the screw holes that actually fix the baffle. There's screws around the perimeter of the baffle, but these side ones are concealed with a cleat for some reason, which makes it annoying. But we took the speaker out, just checking the surround and everything, and it's actually pretty clean. That finer grill cloth doesn't allow as much dust through as like the Marshall basket weave stuff does, so it's not too bad. The speaker's in good nick. So it's a 65 watt though, and I did test this thing, and it's putting out 65 watts clean. So if you drove it hard, this speaker would struggle. It'd probably go open circuit. You'd blow it. I had the underbench test speaker on it before, and it started to smell. So that's a G12 T75, and this is a 65. So yeah, if you're pushing it, she's gonna die. All right, freedom, horrible freedom. We can get the baffle out now and see if we can retension this cloth. You can see how saggy it is. You can see how loosey-goosey it is. So I've got the hot air gun. You can do it with the paint stripper gun, but it's a little bit less controlled. I've got the hot air gun set to 300 degrees. I've taken the nozzle off the hose. We'll just work our way around in a spiral motion. Keep moving, don't stop. Working our way towards the center. Think like a CNC machine. I'll just go from the outside again, do it again. Repeat the process from outside. Keep moving. Maximum fan, not maximum temp, sorry, 300 degrees maximum fan. Now look at that, tight as a drum. Ready for reinstallation. That's a big time saver. And we're going to forget about those shitty staples that were in there before. I've pulled them out. We'll reuse the same cleats, but I'll screw them in. So I've got a countersinking pre-drill bit. And glorious 1080p, perfectly focused. I'll just skew them in. Try not to go through the Tolex on the other side. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Pop some countersunk screws in there. Got some of these black ones which will fit the bill. It's much more sturdy, and it can be removed in the future without having to pry that glue off again. Should someone put their foot through the grill cloth or something equally as rock and roll as that.
go, champions. That's sort of what it sounds like. I reckon a different speaker would probably serve this amp a lot better than the well, what is it? Celestion G1265. That would probably be the last upgrade, and then this thing would be a beast. Probably want a little bit more power margin there as well. But she's back together. She lives to fight another 50 years. So this one's out the door. I'll see you on the next one.